will of God. But today, God's partner for your life. Each person thinking about marriage should understand that marriage is only for matured adults. Our physical, emotional, social, spiritual maturity contributes tremendously to our marital lives. You see, there are many people that only think about physical maturity. In fact, I'm sorry to say, some of our parents, our natural parents, they only think about our physical maturity. They say, don't you know how old you are now? Don't you see yourself in the mirror? Don't you see that you are physically matured? What are you thinking about marriage? They do not know anything about emotional stability. They do not know anything about temperamental development. Neither do they understand about our social interaction, about the way we relate, the thing that makes us different from animals, and then the spiritual maturity, how we're able to cope with life, how we're able to dig a deep foundation for a solid life, and you're able to build your life on the 7 pillars of the Christian faith. They do not know all about that, and because of that they think that once you're physically matured, you must be ready for marriage. But before you go into marriage, we need to develop a matured life of discipline and temperance, self-control or self-restraint, and self-denial and unselfishness, as well as industry and diligence. In Proverbs, I read a lot of Proverbs to you last Monday, and you should take time to read the Proverbs. Let me remind you that God asked Solomon, and he said, what do you want that I do for you? And Solomon said, you have made me a king over the land of Israel, and I am young. I do not have the understanding and the wisdom. A lot of administration that goes into leading the millions of the Israelites, I do not have. A lot of the social development that I need in dealing with the problems of human beings, I do not have. A lot of understanding on dealing with the counselors that lived with my father. Old men. Now that my father has died, dealing with those old men, aged men, counselors, people that even sat on the same seat in the palace with Ahithophel, I do not have. Therefore, Lord, beyond money, beyond material things, give me wisdom and understanding. And God said, I'll give you wisdom and understanding, such as no other king had had before you. And then when God gave Solomon all that wisdom, he recorded much of the wisdom he learned in the Proverbs. And much of what we read in the Proverbs will just be the wisdom that God gave him to understand righteous people and wicked people, how to deal with people, how to deal with men, how to deal with women, how to develop in your own life, how to live a life in the practical sense. And it's not just talking about getting saved and going to heaven. It's talking about how to live your life now satisfactorily, profitably, before you get to heaven. And remember, he wrote all this by the wisdom that God gave unto him. And as young people thinking about marriage, thinking about life, wanting to develop, you need to read the Proverbs. In fact, many years ago, when we used to go about in Scripture Union, preaching the gospel, and having camps with those children, I know one of the preachers that I respected very much at that time. I'm talking about 20 years ago now, or even more. You know what he will say? He will say that he wanted all of us, the preachers in Scripture Union and the students of the Scripture at the Scripture Union, to pick up 1 chapter of Proverbs every day. 31 chapters, just read a chapter a day. And if you have 30 days in that month, get 2 chapters just in one day of the last day. And then you read Proverbs every month. If you do that, you'll be so wise. You'll be wiser than your age. And it's good to study the Proverbs and to understand that much has been preserved for us in the book of Proverbs. But today again, let me just read a few verses to you. In Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 6, go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which have no guide, overseer or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? What I'm showing you from here is that if you're going to live a normal life, eventually, a good, profitable, developed family life, you need to get out of bed. You see, when you are resting, if you only eat and sleep, you can grow physically. But except you come out of bed, you come out of sleep, you interact, you deal with other people, you play with other people, you serve with other people, and you learn from other people, you talk to other people, they also talk to you. If you do not do that, you're not going to develop. But if you want to grow and develop, come out of the shelter. You see, when you come out, there is storm outside. There is storm in life. There are conditions of life. There are circumstances in life. There are difficulties in life. Those are the difficulties out of the room, out of the shelter, out of bed that develops you. And when you are developed like that, you are getting matured for life. And then in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 13. Proverbs 20:13. Love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. Although that passage is talking about industry and diligence at work, but apply it to your life. Love not sleep. Do not just remain in the shelter. Come out, mix with the other people. And when you do, open your eyes. There is a lot to learn. A lot to learn. And many times, what you learn at school from the books is not enough. But when you get on the bus, people push you. And before you learned how to live with people, you push them too. Other people sit down, you struggle to sit down. You are being exposed to life. But you see, for all the time, you are in the bed. After getting out of bed, you got into an air-conditioned car. After getting out of that, a carpet is stretched before you. Then you walk into a carpeted place. You never suffer. You never see any problem. You are not prepared for marriage. But you have come out into the public. You have interacted. You are developing socially. You are developing mentally. You are developing spiritually. You are developing in interaction with brothers and sisters. And you are developing also in academic things. Eventually you'll find that you are matured all round to be able to deal with the problems of marriage. In Proverbs chapter 30, verse 21, for 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear. Here, the wise man, another wise man, said, there are 3 things. Oh yes, he said, I remember the 4th thing now, for which there is disquietness in the world. And then he mentions the 4 things. Number 1, a servant when he reigneth. You know what I've been telling you? A servant develops in only one area. He works. In those days, he can till the ground. He can plant the seed. He can sweep the floor. He can cook in the kitchen. He can carry a load. But the servant led a lonely life. Their masters did not allow them to go out and be exposed and have experience. If eventually that servant becomes a king and he reigns, the country, the land, the earth is not in peace. Because he doesn't have the experience. He has only developed his muscles, but not his mind. He has only developed his bones, but he has not developed on the wisdom to deal with people. And then he says, and a fool when he is filled with meat. A fool. Who is a fool? A fool is somebody who has not developed enough to know that there is life tomorrow morning. He says, all we have today, let us eat and drink. Because when the night has come, we don't know, life may not even come tomorrow. So let's finish everything that we have today. My brothers and sisters, I knew a brother like that. Child of God. Real wonderful child of God. In our own church here. Oh, you say, do you have people like that in your church? Yes, we do. We have all types of people. We're all growing, all growing. Maybe you are even like that yourself. Now let me tell you, this brother, he was living with another brother. And he likes to eat. And he can eat 4 times a day. And if the other brother said, watch out, because tomorrow, oh, he will say, Jesus may come tonight. And then if he has any amount of money, and then he's spending, And the other brother said, how about next week? Don't you believe God? Jesus may come this week. There are people like that. They have developed doctrine. They have not developed wisdom. They know Bible passage about heaven. They don't know any Bible passage about how to live now. They understand Revelation. They do not understand Proverbs. And it says, a fool, when his belly is filled with meat, that the earth is disquieted. And therefore we need to understand that we must not remain fools. We must learn. For an odious woman when she's married. What type of woman is that? That's the woman that is now of age. And the mother said, don't you see yourself in the mirror? Don't you see you are well developed? Don't you see that you are now ready for marriage? But that girl, even though 25, her mind, her brain, her intellect, her way of thinking, her action, her behavior is like 5-year-old girl. Body has developed, mind has not developed. The body has developed, but the spirit has not developed. The body has developed, but social relationship, interaction, how to deal with others has not been developed. That is like an odious woman. When she's married, there is trouble everywhere. And an handmaid that is heir to her mistress. What does that mean? You know, all the time the mistress, that's the real wife, had been doing budgeting and buying. Had been doing planning and cleaning. Had been doing the timetable and then just giving instruction to the handmaid, saying, cook this. We'll measure out the recipe. We'll say a pint of this, a cup of this, a drop of this, and just a sprinkle of this, and we'll explain everything. But the maid never bothered, never checked out how the mistress actually did all those things. Maybe eventually the mistress died. And this old man felt, why go out and marry somebody else? This maid that had been here all the time, when my real wife was still alive. Well, the maid, in any case, says you don't have husband. What do you think about this? Can you be my wife? And the maid said, jolly well. That's the greatest surprise of my life. So I'm your wife now. And the man said, yes. And there's trouble in the world. The lady does not know about budgeting. She was only a maid. She doesn't know about buying. She was only a maid. She doesn't know about communication. She was only a maid. Because of the relationship he had before, master-slave relationship, and she never developed. All she developed was sitting at the kitchen and grinding that pepper. She can grind for 5 hours. But she doesn't know how to keep things clean, how to get things orderly, how to do any other thing. She developed physically as a maid, as a slave, but she didn't develop spiritually and socially and intellectually. When such a person that is not balanced, not well developed, not fully developed, when such a person gets married, there is problem, there is unrest. And so that is the reason we're thinking and talking about all this. That before we get married, there should be this maturity. Physical, you know, the physical maturity will take care of itself. If you just eat and exercise and sleep and work, physical development will take care of itself. But emotional development, my brothers, think about this. There are people that whenever you rebuke them, the only thing they know is to cry like when they were a baby. That's the way they still cry at 25, at 26. The emotion is not developed. There are people, whenever you tell them, why are you sitting there? Now stand up and go and sit over there. That person, she will stand up from that place and then sit down in that place. For the next 6 hours, she will not talk. She is thinking, nobody loves me. I sat down there, they told me to rise up. And then she is weeping. And you told the person to rise up 30 minutes ago, you had forgotten. And you are very happy, you are socially developed. And you went to the person and said, my sister, what's the matter? Well, I know nobody loves me. And begins to cry. What's the matter? She is developed physically, emotionally, she is not developed. The temperament is not developed. Or it is spiritual. That she reads a verse of scripture, she doesn't know what it means. And if you have children, she's not going to be able to explain anything to the children. And so, there is maturity necessary to help us in our marriages. Some people recklessly or suddenly enter into marriage, and thereby they ruin their lives. They mistake their dangerous presumption for daring faith. They want to get married now, and they will think about converting that partner later. Such people blindly enter into a life of misery. Others go into marriage to solve a present pressing problem, or just to change environment. They want to escape from their parental control. Oh, they say, if I get married, I will enjoy my life. Mommy and daddy will not be telling me, go to the kitchen, go and sweep the ground, put that bucket of water in the toilet, and flush that toilet. All these clothes are dirty, a mountain of clothes every Saturday. All the ones that your junior ones use, your father use, your mother use, everybody use, they put a mountain there. They say, now settle all that. And you say, but I want to read Bible. They say, well, read the Bible, but finish all that. And when you finish, we hope that you finish all that clothing by 12 o'clock. So everything